friends, I have Leslee Owen here today with Movement Maker, and y'all, I am so excited. She's a dear friend, a gem of a person. You're going to love spending time with her today. And she just has so many incredible insights on how to use your website to actually generate leads and turn that into revenue. And so you guys are going to have the best time getting to hear from her. But Leslee, I'll let you take it from here. Go ahead and tell us who you are, a little bit about your background, and then how you've gotten to this place and what you're doing.
Whitney, thank you so much for having me. Right back at you, gem of a person right here hosting the Emboldened Entrepreneur podcast. I love when I shared this story of how I found myself, leading Movement Maker web design and digital marketing agency. It really is a very windy, unexpected path that led me to where I am today. And Whitney, you were a part of that path. Like we crossed paths in our work together in a marketing department at C12. But really, I have a background in media production. I was a television producer for 13 years. It naturally lent itself to become a marketer because I was a storyteller, but my stories were only as good as the audience that I was familiar with. So when you talk about story and you talk about audience, that's kind of like 1 + 1 = 2. It equals marketing. So I found myself while still being a producer on the side, starting my LLC and doing video marketing consulting because I could do the best of both worlds, in my opinion. That led me to corporate marketing, where I helped lead a department with Whitney. And it was such a learning experience to not only really get to dive into corporate marketing, but really get a firsthand front row seat to business ownership and how to run a business and all that it comes with. So I felt like I almost got like a mini MBA while I was at C12 and helping lead their marketing department. But 2020 came along. And at the time, I was a young mother in leadership that had 3 kids that needed to be homeschooled and a 2-year-old who was being potty trained. And, I feel like all of America really didn't know what to do with working moms that had, young children at home. And so unfortunately, although I was on track to become marketing director, there was a choice in front of me. Was I going to kind of work at a pace that was just unrealistic, and no matter how much I wanted to, it would have really started to tear at pieces of myself and ultimately kind of tear the foundation and the relationships that I had at home? Or was I going to switch over to a department that I really didn't have any interest in, and I just knew it wasn't for me? So you look at an ultimatum like that, and there never really is just 2 choices. For me, I feel like a third choice arose, and I do feel like there was a leading of the Holy Spirit that said, you can take that LLC that you've had for the last, at the time, probably 4 years, and you can go all in on yourself. And so I looked at my husband, Brett, and I said, I feel like now is the time. Like, what if I did this? What if I went full on marketing consulting on my own? And he said, you are the best investment we could ever, take our savings and pour into. So May 2021, I left, did marketing consulting. And my husband left his ministry role in 2020. He did some nonprofit consulting, but Brett has also been a web designer for as long as I've known him. And he was doing websites for nonprofits here and there, not charging anything because he is just a ministry heart through and through, could not charge anybody anything. But I was in this for-profit space working with business owners. And so I looked at him and I was like, what if I sold them for you? So I think we had a goal of 3 and I sold 5. And at that moment, that was probably 2 years ago, we realized, we really could be this dream team and create more of a web design agency where the 2 of us come together and get to create just really phenomenal work. And so that's what we've done. So we co-own Movement Maker together. I lead as CEO. He is the creative director. And the biggest thing that we say, and what really is our mission, is we don't just launch websites, we launch movements. And we are most called to the movements in communities that ultimately help people. And so that can happen in the nonprofit space, but it also can happen in the for-profit space, as you and I are very familiar with. So now we have gosh, we have full-time employees now, we have contractors. And so when I sit in this seat today and look at the work that I get to do, I'm like, wow, what a wild ride. But all of it leading up to this moment today.
That's awesome. I love that. I love Brett saying the best investment we can make is in you. Like, I think we tend to play it small, right? Like, that's the whole premise of like Embolden is we do have movements and things that we're called to, and there's this greater purpose for each of our lives. But the bet on ourselves is really hard sometimes. And so I love that you have a supportive partner who's like, yes, we are going to bet on you and we're going to take this leap and follow what God's doing in our lives to this place. And so that's really cool.
Yes.
So I love you sharing that. And I miss us getting to work together. That was so much fun.
We were a dynamic team, let me tell you.
We really were. And I guess that's like some of the things that I miss about entrepreneurship too, is like the amount of like camaraderie of like sitting around having these like deep conversations together and doing life.
Yes.
And you kind of miss that in an entrepreneurial world.
Yes.
But as you're building a company to get to the place where you can bring team members on and scale this business, you're living proof that this is, a work in progress. You're getting there. So lead generation is a huge part of that. We've got to have business to make money, to lead people, to be able to hire a team and then have that camaraderie built in. So walk me through, you have this whole framework of how to make your website work for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it is brilliant. You have a download on your website that I used when I was building mine because hiring it out was a little challenging at the point in time when I did it. But I know you guys do brilliant work and would highly recommend you guys. But for those who are trying to understand what a framework of a website even looks like and how to turn that into traffic, help us understand that.
Yeah, so the download is the framework for effective website design. We also have a kind of like our overall process, which is also on our website, which is called the Movement Maker method. And I actually want to start there because it's actually even more foundational that gives people an understanding of, oh, this is where I should be starting, because many people start with marketing tactics. Many owners believe, hey, if I just throw a whole lot of money at a Google ad campaign, or maybe I need to hire the social media manager and spend $1,000 a month because that's going to generate traffic, that will generate revenue to the business. Unfortunately, they will find after a lot of wasted money and time that it doesn't work. And it's because your website is supposed to be the hub, right? It's supposed to be the heart of your marketing strategy. And so just like the heart pumps blood and energy to all of the limbs of your body, so should the website be pumping energy into all of those different platforms. And those platforms should be sending people to a website that works as hard as you, meaning that it's sticky, that people find it engaging, and they know exactly what they are supposed to do, right? With call to action buttons. But you can't create a website that's a heart of your marketing strategy unless you start with understanding your audience, because that is key. And so when we work with clients, we actually tell them, hey, let's make sure this is a fit, because we're not going to dive into tactics. We're going to spend a good amount of time of understanding your audience, really locking in on not just the demographics, psychographics, but I need you as the owner to have a deep understanding of their problem and to have empathy towards that problem, because we're going to take all of that, and that leads it to the next step, which is we're going to create a human-centered design. It's not human-centered if the website is all about the owner or all about the services. We're not trying to create a digital brochure. And there are many of us that start off that way, right? I just need a landing page. I just need to put some stuff up. Here's my contact info. Here's my services. And that makes sense. When you're first starting off, that's what your website should be. But if you're on your second generation website, third generation website, that means that your revenue streams are established. It means that you have great referrals, but you're kind of like, okay, that's kind of drying up, or I can't just rely on word of mouth marketing. I need to pull the lever of digital marketing. And so we know that we need to have a human-centered design that is engaging and captivates the audience. So then that leads to, okay, now we can develop things like videos, blogs. Now we can, if we wanted to have a podcast, we know what the podcast should be about. We can embed it in the website. But again, sometimes people skip that and they think, oh, I just need to have an email marketing strategy. That's why I don't have enough revenue. That's why I don't have leads. It has to start at the foundation of the audience. We work our way up eventually to marketing tactics. And so when you create a lead magnet that you have proven works organically, meaning that people that come to the website just by looking through keywords, download the lead magnet or engage with the lead magnet, now you have proof that you can spend money and run a Google campaign and know that it's going to convert for you. And so that's been the case for countless amounts of our clients is we do the foundational work, we create the content, we prove that it works, and now they're ready to run the campaign. So we've had some clients that maybe had 7 leads a month and now are upwards of 100 to 150 leads a month with with a legit strategic Google ad campaign. So that's how we approach it. That's our framework. And it may not be for everybody, but we find that it's very effective when we approach it that way.
Yeah, I love that. I'm like processing all of it because it's so good. I do love how you said it's the heart
Yes.
and everything branches out from that. It makes me think of, do you remember the book that we read when we were at C12 called Switch? And it has like 3 components. There's the logic, which is like, or the writer, which is your logic.
Uh-huh.
There's the elephant, that's the emotion. And then there's a clear path. It's like the 3 things that you need for change management. I apply this to every aspect of my life because I think it's brilliant. But just thinking about like the emotion is an elephant, right? It's a 10,000 pound animal.
Yes.
How do you move that? The information, sure, that helps the logic, but the logic, the writer can't override the elephant.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're understanding the heart and what is driving the emotion, the fear, the pain points of your audience, it's really hard to get them to see the path to move forward, to get those 2 synced up. And so you have to almost have all 3 components, right? Like address the elephant, the emotion.
Yes.
So that the writer, the logic can understand, okay, here's what I need now.
Yep.
I resonate with this. Now I get it. And now I know there's a clear path because you're the solution to my problem.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's how people buy. I mean, even the way that we write copy, it's very buyer psychology centric. People are coming to a website and almost need like little check. Do you understand where I want to go? Like, do you have my dream outcome in mind? Like, will I immediately see it in the header? But then do you also understand the obstacles and the problems that I'm going through? Okay, yeah, you do. But are you in it with me? And how do I know that you're legit? How do I know that you care? But then what's your process? Like, okay, cool. This is good. But how do you take me from point A to point Z? And then what can I expect? Like, what payoffs should I expect? So like we have this entire framework in mind when we write for our clients because they are not website copywriters. And you should not be writing copy for your website if you are not a website copywriter. But what you should be is an editor-in-chief. You should be in charge of voice and tone. And again, because you're the expert of your audience. But to your point, this is how we move that elephant. This is how we move people emotionally, is because we know how they think.
Yeah, that's great. So if we're super foundational, obviously coming to work with you is a brilliant idea to be able to work through this whole process. But how would you recommend even beginning to find, like to niche down and find that ideal audience? Because I know for me, that's been a struggle over the last few years. And even still, like I still have people telling me like, you can't serve men and women. You need to pick one or the other. Like you need a very specific avatar. And like, I totally get that, but I have such a hard time niching down compared to what I feel like the calling is.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not alone in that. So help me understand. And then of course that translates to everybody, but like, how would you really recommend like finding those pain points, niching down, like really creating that avatar?
I love that because I wish we were all like Coca-Cola and we really could speak to anyone globally. But we're not. So I'm a part of an incredible group. And so if any of your listeners are looking towards building their own personal brand, there is a group called Brand Builders Group. It's led by Rory and AJ Vaden. I am a member. I've been a member for almost 3 years now. And the reason why I signed up with Brand Builders is because I heard a podcast with Rory and he said something that just like, it just nailed it in my heart. He said, you are most suited to serve the person that you once were. And when I heard that, I still get goosebumps because I remember Leslee 5 years ago. I know everything about Leslee from 5 years ago. I know what she struggled with. I know what her doubts. I know her fear. I know, the realities of home and the realities of her business and the career, all of those things. I don't have to guess. And so one of the hardest things actually about me working at C12 in that marketing role was trying to write for an audience that I could not relate to. You and I had to create content for CEO or C-suite executive men that were white and 40 years old, like middle aged.
And bringing in millions of dollars in revenue.
Yes.
We had never run multi-million dollar companies
No.
at that point. So,
And I was a 30-something mom of 4 who had never run a company on her own. And my only experience was being a woman and ministry background and all of those things. And so I remember putting together, and I don't know but I remember putting together social media content and spending hours. We did not have ChatGPT back then, girl. We did it from scratch. So spending hours and then putting it in front of our boss, who was that category, who would say, this is not it.
no.
So a lot of times when we try to be everything to everyone, we don't get it. We miss the mark because the content is just not going to resonate because it's clear that we don't understand the experience. So when you ask yourself, who am I best suited to serve? Well, who was I 5 years ago? Because I know how to lead that person to where they ultimately probably want to be, which is where I'm sitting right now. Now, that doesn't mean that you always have to stay in that lane. But if you're just starting out and you want some quick wins and you want to know that you're going to nail your content and your marketing, hands down, I would start there. Get the wins, build the revenue streams. Doesn't mean that you'll turn away somebody that doesn't fit in that category, but you're going to have a portfolio that showcases that you do know what you're talking about. And so that's what I would definitely recommend.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's a good reminder of really I've said this before, and I think it's so true. I think whatever we start out as entrepreneurs to do isn't usually where we end up, because we end up coming back to serving what we wish we had had, or where we felt lost, or, the struggles that we had to overcome. It's like, oh, I can channel all of this and make this so much better for somebody else.
Yes.
And so I love that. Think about serving who you were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. So walk us through websites. So last week I had Sophia on and she talked about SEO. She kept saying the phrase, all roads lead back to your website.
Yes.
And you've kind of said that in different ways too. So talk us through how to make our website work for us.
Yeah. So we talk about your website should work as hard as you. And you're out there as a business owner, you're networking, sometimes you're the one fulfilling the product or the service, you're doing all of it. And you have this platform that's just sitting there. A lot of times you built it when you launched your business and then you haven't looked at it. You haven't touched it. So a lot of owners, they know it's not working as hard as they are. And there's a lot of shame and embarrassment around it. They're like, actually, please don't look at it. Actually, go to my social media pages or send me an email directly. Don't. So they're not even using it. And again, now it's a siloed platform that is not communicating to any other platforms within the business. And so it's not doing anything. And so what you want the website to be is essentially you want it to be an extension of yourself. So if you could think about cloning yourself as a business owner and you could rely on this person selling for you, marketing for you, showing up the way that you do, you would, in a second sign up for that. And that's what the website should be. And so the way that we do that is we focus on high converting and high performing websites because we are not in the business of just building really beautiful websites. There are plenty of designers out there that get really artistic, and sure, when you scroll, some really crazy things happen. It's abstract and maybe you kind of squint your eyes to figure out what's going on. And it's impressive, but it's not high performing because it's still not doing anything. So we want to launch a website. And so I love that you had Sophia on that has an SEO strategy in place. So you've done the optimization, and we want to launch it with some type of lead magnet in place as well. Because that means that when somebody, as you begin to build traffic, right, and you're drawing the right people through your SEO strategy, you're capturing them through this lead magnet that's very attractive and easy to fill out, right? So gone are the days that you can have just a contact form and that's enough. Nobody wants to fill out just a contact form, especially if it's their first time on your website. They are they're really looking for a digital playground experience. They want to look at your podcast. They want to read articles. They want to look through graphics. They want to look at your process. They want multiple forms of content to play with because they know that they can leave and ghost you whenever they want to. And they know they can come back whenever they want to. So it's just not enough to bank on one contact form. And so I tell owners, if that's all you have on your website, you have an outdated website strategy already. So the way that we build them is we want to have what we talked about, that buyer psychology on every single page. The way that we're writing is the way that people think. We want it to have a lot of care and connection. And so the way that we accomplish this is through an acronym that we call it's H.E.A.R.T, right? So it's the heart of our strategy. And so H stands for human centered. E is that it's empathetic. A is that it's accessible. So no matter if you're hearing impaired or visually impaired, you can come to this website and get the information that you're looking for. R is that it's responsive. So no matter if you're looking at it on a desktop, an iPad, or mobile, you are having the exact effective experience no matter the device. And then finally, T, it's trustworthy. The last thing you want is for someone to type in your URL and you see that it's not secure. Like, what are you already saying in your URL that it's not secure? If you're a business owner that's taking payment on that website, they're putting their data in your hands. I mean, you don't want to start off that way. And so we use this acronym of H.E.A.R.T to ensure that we have care and connection in all of it. And so when we put these things together, when we have care and connection, when we have a SEO strategy, when we have a lead magnet strategy, now you're launching and you can ensure that whether the SEO is drawing the traffic or you are out there networking, keynote speaking, going over and talking to everyone that you can, that when you're drawing the traffic to the website, it will convert for you because again, we started with the audience, we know what they want, we're building content that they're looking for, and you're going to start to see those leads convert. So that's the way that we approach our web design.
I love that. And I love the digital playground idea too.
Yes.
Like that's such a great concept, the HEART acronym, all of that's so great. But when you're building a lead magnet,
Mm-hmm.
what like I think there can be a fear of, and even like you were talking about, like kind of what do you do, right? Like, how do you give enough of a nugget of here's my expertise, this is what makes me unique,
Mm-hmm.
without giving away the secret sauce of your business? And so, how do you navigate that to give them enough that's like, this is who I want to work with,
Mm-hmm.
without giving your competitors your competitive edge?
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. So we'll have a couple of examples. We are building a website for a coach that specifically works for special needs parents. She has a daughter. So again, serving the person that we once were. She has a daughter named Kennedy that is a medically complex teenager. She's 15. But Jennifer has not allowed Kennedy's diagnosis to limit their lives. And it is a fascinating story of how they have traveled the entire world. And Kennedy is like bound to a wheelchair, cannot sit upright completely, has so many medical devices connected to her. And yet Jennifer has made it a point to travel on boats, planes, trains. And so now she wants to empower other special needs parents that have just maybe decided and committed their lives to, we're going to just stay inside and we'll never get to adventure out. So when we were going back and forth and she signed up, not only to have her complete website built by us, but to also do the lead magnet, we were going through, and the main things that I'm looking for when we're brainstorming about lead magnets are, what do people ask for you the most? Like, what are they asking? What are they most curious about when they engage with you? And for Jennifer, she was like, people ask me all the time, how in the world do I travel with Kennedy? How have we spent her entire life going to Disney World, going to Jamaica, going to how have we done it? And so we started thinking through this and we came up like this with this traveling toolkit. And when she ended up, I said, I want you to brain dump. I want you to put everything on there. The woman had templates. The woman had like, here's the number to I forget what it's called, but basically like the government regulated airline in order to give you permission to have your child lay down in an airplane. Like she had all of it. And it was like 20 something pages long. And I was like, all right, Jennifer, no one is going to read that. Like that as a lead magnet, that's a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so we took it and we're like, how do we make this still pique somebody's interest of like, oh my gosh, first of all, that's possible and bite-sized enough to I can consume this and be curious for more, get value, but be curious for more. So we ended up turning it into the 10 essentials for flying with a medically complex child. And we came up with the top 10. She still was able to put the phone number to get approval for your child to lay down flat on an airline. But it's easy, it's light. And we also double checked with her coaching clients and all of her other special needs parents and her peers, is this something that you would want? And all of them, hands down, were like, yes. So she's not giving away everything, right? Eventually, she should build that entire travel toolkit into an ebook and charge for it. But giving away top 10 essentials is extremely valuable without giving away all of her coaching curriculum, the entire toolkit. But it piques people's interest enough. And that's the thing. You don't give away something that you're like, oh, I could go figure that out on my own. I could use ChatGPT and go look it up on my own. Like, I get the fear of like, I don't want my competitors to see this. I don't want people like we have an audit on our website right now. So it's called, is your website working as hard as you? And you can take this quiz and we ask about 10 questions. And through those questions, you can audit your own website in like 5 minutes. Can my competitors go and take the quiz themselves? Yes. But are they still going to like be able to encompass everything that we are as a company? No. So I think we have to let go of that fear because it's like causing you not to do anything, but create something that maybe does feel a little bit risky because that probably means that it's really good and that people would actually get something out of it on the other side.
Yeah, no, that's great. I read a book not long ago. Somebody else from the podcast recommended this book called Unselling. And he was like a consultant, or he was a CEO for like 20 years before he became a consultant. And he talked about the challenges of starting a business from the ground up. And one of those things he was talking about was how you can procrastinate to immense measures that you didn't even know you were capable of, right? And so I did that. I wrote an ebook and it was like 120 pages long and I still wasn't done with it. And I was like, no way is anybody going to read this. So I then converted it into a platform that's now becoming a membership program that's rolling out. And so it was like, okay, there's ways to repurpose this to be income generating and to be effective. But you're right, like take into consideration like how valuable time is for everybody. So create the playground experience that keeps it lighthearted and fun, gives them enough to be interested to keep coming back to play, and then eventually purchase the like amusement park ticket, right? Like come all the way in and have the full experience.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I would be curious, what other insights or thoughts have we not covered that you think would be really relevant for somebody considering kind of how to work with you, how to experience, how to create their digital playground experience?
Yeah. I truly believe we are in a digital economy. It's no longer the people that know the most have the strategic and competitive edge. It's not those that have the most experience. And so when I'm on calls with business owners, especially the ones that are like, Leslee, my business does not come from marketing. My business comes from referrals. My business comes from my network, going out networking. So I really don't see the need to invest in a website, especially a website like ours. Our website, again, is not for startups unless you have capital and that you're willing to like, let's jump out the gate and we want the high performing, high converting right now. But for the most part, it's for that second, third generation of a website that business owners are ready to invest in. But even then, we just launched a website this week with an established owner of an accounting firm that, I mean, the woman and her personal brand, like her reputation in the city of San Antonio precedes her. Like when you're in her presence, you were just like, teach me your ways, please, please. And yet her in-person reputation does not match her digital reputation. And so that's the big question that I think everyone needs to be asking is that, yes, you can spend a lot of time in person building up your business and who you are, shaking hands and people referring to you, but it's around the corner. And especially because the rising consumer market are millennials like you and I, we are going to be the driving force of, creating economy in our country. And it is not enough for us to just hear of someone that was wrote down on a piece of paper or a business card that we got. If we go on and we see that you have no website or your website is trash and it doesn't do anything and it's embarrassing, you don't have any presence on social media, you do not have a digital playground, I'm not going to consider you. I will get the same or another lead that has less experience than you, less knowledge than you, but they look amazing and they have the digital playground and they're creating content consistently, hands down. I will be choosing them over you. And I think that's the reality that a lot of seasoned business owners are, and the ones that we work with are the ones that are embracing this, the ones that are coming to terms and saying like, you know what, you're right. You're right. This is my future. And if I want to see our business go into this next generation and even if I'm looking to pass this on and for it to be a legacy to maybe my children and their grandchildren, this is the economy that we are living in. And so it's not just a simple, oh, cool, yeah, we need a website. Like this is a major thing. And stuff is moving even faster with AI. It's disrupting even our world and our industry. But you certainly, the one thing that it can't disrupt is you. Like you are the human being. You are the person that it cannot replicate. But if you are not in and on the platforms that everyone is on, then it doesn't matter how good you are. No one knows you exist. So I think the fact that you are hosting this conversation with, that you've had, even Sophia on talking about SEO, I mean, you are really giving your listeners and equipping them for what business is going to look like in the next 2 to 5 years.
That's awesome and so encouraging. I think just based on how you were explaining that person, I'm like, I know who that is. But then I'm thinking, gosh, yeah, you're so right about like, again, thinking, who was I 5 years ago? Who am I today? I consume a lot of information. Like I follow people because I enjoy what they post on social media.
Yes.
Right. I spend far too much of my life on social media. It's a habit I need to break, but that's a way that I'm consuming information. So if I'm my ideal audience, then where am I hanging out? What information am I consuming? I need to be thinking about that as I create the digital playground.
Yes.
That's so good.
Yep.
Okay. So here's a question that I like to ask everybody that is a little bit more personal, but I think everybody encounters some type of fear, obstacle, limiting belief in getting started or even trying to scale. And, entrepreneurship, again, is taking that bet on yourself, right? And so yourself gets in the way of that at times. What is something that you've had to overcome? And then do you have any tools for others who might be following in your shoes?
I think so. Just almost a year ago, I was faced with a really big decision that felt so scary. Before going all in with Movement Maker and growing and scaling the agency, I was a full-time coach to female entrepreneurs, specifically women that were also mothers, podcasts, had group coaching, one-on-one coaching, and I had scaled that and honestly 100% believed that that was my future, is I was going to be the go-to coach for mothers that were also entrepreneurs. Movement Maker just kind of felt like it all of a sudden started developing in a way that it just was growing, and clients were coming through the door. And you look at one group coaching cohort that I would launch over 12 weeks would equal like a 13K launch, versus one website was like 13K at the time. And so I was like sitting there with this like, and I will tell you, I had a coach that called this months and months before I was like really ready to like come to terms with it. But he told me, he was like, you need to put away coaching and you need to go all in with a web design agency. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And like, I ended the relationship with the coach. I told him, I think I just need to apply what we've been talking about. I ended it with him and I was like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, here I find myself probably almost a year later. I decided to take a personal retreat, and I went to a little island off of south of Seattle called Anderson Island. It was stunning and beautiful. And I'm just by myself out in nature, and I'm sitting and I'm asking myself this very real question, which is, do I keep coaching or do I go all in and do the website thing? And Whitney, I was in the middle of a launch. I was in the middle of a coaching launch. I was about to start like my third or fourth group. My assistant had all of the landing pages were done. I had speaking events that I was promoting this at. I had all the graphics, like everything in place. And I knew in that moment, like I had to ask myself, like, what did I ultimately want to see in life? And ultimately, where I am right now is I have 3 years left with my oldest. He's 15. I have 3 more years left with him being in my house, right? I have 4 kids total. I have an amazing husband. Like, we love to travel. I want the freedom to live our lives. And choosing the coaching would mean that I would have to work to make enough revenue to be able to spend the time that I wanted to. And the agency allowed this opportunity for us, yes, to work, but certainly be able to enjoy the life that we were creating simultaneously. And so in that moment, after a lot of prayer, I left and got back home and immediately publicly told everyone that I was canceling the coaching, that it was not happening. Had to tell my assistant to cancel everything, turn off all the automations. We're not doing it. It also led to the closing of my podcast that I had for like 2 or 3 years at that point. So it was a lot of ending something, but I'm telling you, not like that was August of 23, no, 24, August of 24, January of 25. We got our biggest lead to date come through. Ridiculous. Like, I'm like, how in the world did they find us? They converted into a client in April, but they are the largest client that we have to date. In this and like they're in the state of Texas. So it isn't even just like a San Antonio thing. That wouldn't have happened if I hadn't shifted my focus and been ready to be the leader that I needed to be to lead my team to come alongside this level of client. And so extremely scary. What a risk. But on the other side of it, it's like, well, that's what it takes to scale.
Yeah. Man, that is so good. And that's real. I mean, that fear, even I think in starting up, there's still that same like it's different, but same fear of like, am I doing this right? Is God going to come through? Is he going to provide? Like, I feel this calling, I feel this tug to experience the freedom to live again, right? To not be pulling the corporate hours that we were and like completely giving your life away. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I mean, we were working, taking our laptops home, working till 9 p.m. just to like turn deadlines, right? And so being able to turn the clock off And like I went paddleboarding the other morning because I just realized how fried I was. And
Mhm.
then I needed that capacity. If I were working a corporate job, there's no way I would call in and be like, hey, I need time to go paddleboarding
Yeah.
this morning. Can you
Yes.
imagine? Like,
Yes.
no way. And so it is, I call it a freedom journey, but
Uh,
it is a journey, experiencing freedom, creating a life that is prioritized by what matters most to you.
yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's always going to be that tug of war of like, okay, here's this opportunity. Is it right? And I love to like firing your coach. I heard me tell this story. Like I had a professor in college that used to argue with me that my ideal career was a hobby. And he was like, Whitney, you don't need to do that. And we would argue endlessly. And then he passed away while I was working on my MBA.
Mm.
And he kept telling me that I was going to be in marketing and I was going to be great at marketing. And I didn't believe it. I wanted to be an event planner, you know? And so then fast forward, like 5 years after he passed, where do I end up? In corporate marketing
Yep.
and like surpassing goals. And I was like, man, if he were here for me
Yep.
just to tell him, but that outside perspective of a coach, of somebody that's not in the weeds,
Yes.
changes everything.
Yes. Oh, for sure. No, you are so right about this, the freedom journey. And I mean, Brett and I took a trip in May. We went to Italy for our birthdays and our anniversary. That was a 10-day trip. We're about to go to Disney World with our kids. If I were to go to my boss and be like, I know I just took a 10-day trip in May and now I'm going to take another 9-day trip in July. We're good with that, right? Like, but in that, and I think this is exactly what you're doing as the entrepreneur, we are saying we are trading the comfort and the predictability of our paycheck and knowing where that source, is coming from. We're trading that for the freedom. So we're putting risk. We are putting the money at risk. We are putting our reputation at risk because it's us. And for us, that's worth it. It may not be worth it for everybody, but that's why anyone that's listening that feels the weightiness of this and how scary it can be, well, yeah, it's because that's what you're signing up for, is you're kind of taking on all of that risk, and it does feel weighty. And people that are not doing it are probably going to look at you a little crazy and being like, why?
Yeah, that's so true. Man, this has been so good. Is there anything else, just advice you would give entrepreneurs based on your journey or based on your experience? And then how can they get in contact with you as well?
I think the last thing that I'll say, I had a wonderful conversation with a mentor just this week. And he said, Leslee, because we just hired a full-time employee. And so I'm like, tell me the onboarding process, line by line. What do I exactly need to do to make sure that she is da 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 XYZ? And he was like, listen, you're not going to know all of that up front. You're going to have to just like live it, and then you'll know it, and then you'll be ready for the second and the third and the fourth. He said, but you have to understand this and the way that specifically God works in your business. Leslee, you are to steward the process, but only God is in control of the results. And I really needed to hear that because I am wired to steward the process and control the results and believe that I do. And when I go into result control, I don't see people. People become like, are you productive or not? Like, and so when I don't see people, then what? I'm like not being missional with my own business, because that is our mission, is people, and to launch movements for people. But I'm also like not even doing the thing, like putting on blinders. Businesses are built on relationships. And so if I only talk to you because I think that you have something for me, then I might as well just, be prepared to have a business that won't grow and scale because I'm not focusing on building relationships. And so that was just something that he said this week that I was like, okay, and I felt like there was conviction there, because I think it feels good when you think that you're controlling the results, but you're just missing out on, you just, and I hope it's okay that I say this, but anyway, he was like, you can call me whenever you want to, but it's your own damn fault if you don't, because you have my number. And I think in a lot of ways, it's our own damn fault if we don't see this thriving, beautiful, flourishing business that is able to transform a community and the people inside, because we choose to be controlling the results. And so that's, I don't know, that is just like a message that I want to carry with me when I get a little controlling.
Yeah. No, that is something the Lord's been wrecking me on lately is like, your job is to show up.
Yeah.
I've enabled you, I've equipped you. Your job is to do the work, and then you have to trust me with the outcome.
Yeah.
And like the other night, I was laying in bed and I was so tired, but my brain wouldn't turn off. And I had the thought, because part of my my tagline is like, quit playing it small, start living emboldened.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought David to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this thought of, Whitney, David didn't try to fit in somebody else's armor.
Yeah.
He just showed up with what he had, and look what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I did that because he showed up faithfully.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, quit trying to fit in somebody else's armor, quit trying to fit in these places. Or the opposite, right? We build the relationship, so we're scared to make the ask.
Yes.
And it's like, show up faithfully and then trust him to deliver the results, to slay the giant, to take care of what's in front of us. But I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And then if people are looking to connect with us, I'm on LinkedIn. You can look up Leslee, Leslee, Owen. And go to our website, movementmaker.pro, just to kind of look at, the way that we, all those frameworks that we are talking about, the audit. There is a free audit. That quiz takes about 5 minutes, but you can really, based off of that H.E.A.R.T acronym, measure up your current website to see where it lands. And we'll give you some good pointers on how to go ahead and improve that.
That's awesome. Well, you guys go check that out because it's phenomenal stuff. And we'll have it linked in the show notes as well. But Leslee, thank you so much for sharing your insights, for being a guest, and just being all around incredible and encouraging to everybody listening, and me included.
Thank you so much, Whitney. It was such a pleasure, and I just enjoyed it so much.